So, we are recording from quarantine.
Yay.
Happy days. Hello, you are listening to TW3, the show that highlights the world's insanities, pokes fun at those who deserve it, and tackles the fake news that plays us. I'm Dominic Lane, and I am joined by Lawrence Ray.
Yay.
Right from down under, we've got Nibs.
Hey guys.
And we've got the G-Force.
Hi there.
Live from London. And a very special guest today, we've got Jessica Montgomery from quarantine in Oxford.
Hi.
Hello. So, coming up on this week's episode, we wonder whether did fish beat Birdseye to fish fingers? We look at whether elephants had a little bit too much in China. And we look at the most dangerous place in the world for women. Of course, in light of recent events, we'll obviously be looking at the COVID-19 spread and how it affects the world. We'll be right back after this. So, TW3 was conceived some months ago, and we've been working up to this launch date for some time. We're an alternative media company. Given the world's events of the past few weeks, it's profoundly clear that for the first time in our storied history, no human is free from adversity. Whilst we will always continue to comment, dissect, and that's what TW3 is all about, is having fun, to look at the news of the day or the week, and hopefully put a smile on your face. We've kind of taken the decision, as it were, to only dedicate a small portion of this week's episode and potentially future episodes to the ongoing crisis with COVID-19. This decision is not taken out of insensitivity to the predicament, but we believe that the extraordinary voyage of COVID-19 has been chronicled enough in mainstream media, and we could do you no greater service than bringing you some of the other fascinating and funny events that are happening around the world on a daily basis, and hopefully give you a breath of fresh air, as it were, right, guys?
Yeah, that was not script. That was not script. Well done, Dom. Straight from the dome. Before we begin this week, sorry, I had a question actually. So you know Pat McAfee, Dom?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen about the Aussie rules football?
I did. I picked it up.
Yeah. So Nibs, are you an Aussie rules football guy, or not really?
Well, living here, you're kind of surrounded by it, but not really that immersed in it. No, I'm not too fast.
Dude, I knew about it, but I started watching videos again yesterday, and it's brutal, man. It's brutal. I love it.
There's that famous clip, isn't there? That guy that gets tackled, and he's like his kneecap slid around the side of his knee, and he's sat on the ground, and he's slapping it back in himself, and he goes, pops back in. He's like, carry on now.
It sounds amazing. But yeah, sorry. You can go on now, Dom. I just wanted to.
Ask so we just had a little segue into Aussie rules football. I'm not quite sure how we get back to the original stories now. I mean, it is somewhat of a Discovery Channel this week. It's almost like when humans hide away and the animals come out to play. And Jess, you've got quite a good one for this.
I do, yeah. So obviously, I was tasked with finding some good news stories. Quite an impossible thing to do, considering what's going on at the moment. But obviously, as is always the case, animals deliver. They're the things that tend to cheer us up more than anything. And I found a really, really great story through the Chicago, I think it was the Chicago Tribune newspaper. Basically, their local aquarium, due to COVID-19, is shut down. Which obviously sucks for a lot of people, especially the kids that probably wanted to go there on their school spring holidays. But what they have been doing is still giving tours, but not to kids, to the other animals. So what they've been doing is taking the penguins out of their kind of captivity and showing them around the aquarium for the first time. So there's a wonderful video, obviously we can't show here, of two penguins, a couple of penguins. I think they're like, I don't know, well, penguins can't get married, but like a little married couple of penguins, wandering around and seeing fish for the first time. You know, the only fish they see are the ones that get fed, and they're like showing off these tropical fish, being like, oh my God, what are these? So they've been giving penguins a tour of the aquarium, which is really cute. And then this week they gave a porcupine named Tyson a tour of the aquarium as well. So the porcupine Tyson got to see fish for the first time and see his fellow animals. So that's my little good news for the week. It really one thing that cheered me up.
Brilliant. Okay, fantastic. In TW3 fashion, we usually ask a bunch of questions, mainly satirical questions at this point. I do feel like the animals are probably walking around thinking about which one they're going to have for dinner, surely. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. It's like one of those sushi restaurants, those places to go and pick your lobster, you know. Right.
Yeah, but that's rather sadistic, but yeah, probably true. Oh, that's very good.
That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that one really fat.
All right, so great. Yeah, definitely. Okay, well that's cool. So, I mean, we're kind of on a big of an animal theme this week, and Nibsy, you've come up with something about some elephants in China, haven't you?
Yeah, I have actually. I stumbled across a story. In the absence of human activity, obviously many animals have flourished, and a herd of elephants or a group of elephants have decided to use alcohol to sanitize their trunks in Wunan in China. They were raiding crops and somehow found wine. There's photos have emerged on the internet of a couple of elephants passed out in a tea garden after having too much, and these photos went viral. And it's just amazing to see that obviously when in the absence of humans, animals are getting to, be themselves and go discover things and just run wild as they're meant to.
It sounds like what I'm going to do once quarantine's over, to be honest.
It's funny. Funny actually.
Sanitize yourself in wine.
I know you sent a photo of like people have got the wrong idea of all this stockpiling business. Like all the pasta's gone, and the alcohol sort of stores were sort of fairly stocked up in the supermarket still. But I have seen a bit of a shift over the last couple of weeks that people are obviously now settling to phase 2 of stockpiling, which is that we need the alcohol now. It's been a couple of weeks.
I mean, it's totally true. If you go to Tesco a couple of days ago, you would find wine completely piled on the shelves and all the beer, everything. Now, of course, there is one thing consideration is that, of course, they've shut all the bars and pubs now. So everyone's gone in there. And, of course, you've got to remember a lot of Londoners eat out a lot of the time. So that's why, at the end, and Londoners are fundamentally alcoholics. But yeah, what I couldn't understand was I went there last night to go and pick up the last bag of couscous in the whole of London. And I go to the alcohol section and the only 2 things left was a bottle of very nice Macon, one of the better wines sold in Tesco's, and also 3 bottles of Timothy Taylor's Landlord, which is an absolutely fabulous beer. So in my mind, everyone's buying the wrong thing.
There we go. You heard it here first, guys. The hoarders have bad taste as well.
Exactly.
Have you seen I saw pictures of Amsterdam where people were queuing up outside the weed shops to get their weed before any sort of quarantine begins. So they were stockpiling weed, which it's got to be a pretty cool idea actually. And also, I think it was in America as well. The weed was getting sold out in like all the cafes and.
Yeah, I did see something on that.
In LA, they've marked weed as a necessary good to protect the supply chain, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, there you go. So we can all get stoned and fucked up. So basically, we'll all be like those elephants after the quarantine stuff.
I wonder if Uber's gonna intervene and start delivering. Maybe they'll start delivering marijuana to people. I mean, if you're quarantined, you're not allowed to see your dealer.
Right, yeah, good point. Yeah.
People are worried about
1.5 meter safe distance. So it's like, you give me the cash, then I'll hand over the stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, what would a deal look like with social distancing? Like, how would you do that?
Sorry,
that's very true.
You know those t-shirt caps they have on like Oprah and things like that. They've got like a weed cannons now, and they've launched it from the car.
Boom! Just goes flying out.
Yeah. Exactly.
It'll be like the new
NBA games.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Back to the elephants. It did beg me to think. How much wine do you reckon an elephant has to chug back before they pass out drunk? There's always the tranquilizer guns that they need to really up the dose, obviously, for the larger animals. So how much wine did the elephants get through before they passed out?
Good question.
That is a very good question. I think I seen something about 2.7 liters each when they worked it out. But they are lightweight.
Were they baby elephants?
No, I don't think they were baby elephants at all. I think they were fully grown elephants. Look, I mean, I've in personal experience 4 beers for me, and I'm on the floor. So maybe these elephants were just.
All right. So,
let's hope they weren't used to drinking.
Well, I think they were fairly not used to drinking. So staying on roughly the kind of animal theme, Greg, you've got a story about fish fingers. Well, not fish fingers, fish having fingers.
I have indeed, yes. So this came from livescience.com. 380 million year old fossil has revealed that fingers evolved in vertebrates before the creatures wiggled out of the sea and evolved into land dwelling creatures. A fossil of this 5.1 foot long fish suggests that human hands likely evolved from the fins of this fish. It was called the Elpistostigi watsoni. Catchy name. And,
so essentially, Birdseye beat fish to fish fingers.
The Elpistostigi watsoni beat Birdseye to fish fingers. Yeah, indeed. They had between 6 and 8 fingers and could have actually probably stood on its pectoral fins in the bottom of shallow water. So
that sounds terrifying.
They have fingernails, or just fingers?
No, so they were the sort of emerging what they think now to be early fingers in these front fins of these fish, which do look terrifying from the sort of the illustrations I saw online. They were the starter fingers in these fins, so they had sort of a bit more control over the fins. They're used to swimming largely, but they could have stood up on them in sort of shallow water to sort of poke their heads out of the water and stuff.
Yeah, thank God we culled them out. Got rid of them.
Yeah.
They sound terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
That meteorite and ice age is sounding better and better every day. Like, thank God that came around, right?
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah. You got that, and also luckily we hunted a lot of stuff, right, as well. So the cute dodos went, but then those creepy little bastards went as well. So good news for everyone. Jesus.
So let's move on to one last story, and then we'll jump into this week's game. So Lawrence, you've got a story about the most dangerous place in the world for women. And
yes,
I'm intrigued.
This one, it's not even like it's a little bit more serious. But I thought that obviously, well, I kind of thought straight away when I was thinking about things was that I know I'm blessed with sounding sarcastic 100% of the time. But please do believe me, I'm not being sarcastic during this post. So yeah, I was thinking with this whole quarantine situation, my thoughts were that a lot of the time we wouldn't be actually thinking about like the dangers for like men but mainly women, because obviously a lot of the time people get like drunk and will like basically abuse women if they're with them in relationships, etc. And I figured that would only go up with people stuck in the house together and no one at work and stuff. And on that topic, I was just looking at some stuff online, really. And this week, they were basically talking about the figures of where in the world it's like most dangerous for women. What do you think the top 3 most dangerous places for women are in the world? The countries, by the way, not like cities or anything. Has anyone got any guesses?
What are the like criteria? Because there's a lot of ways to assess.
This one is based on the murder rate.
Iran.
No,
I would say sub-Saharan Africa, somewhere like the Sudan, maybe Somalia, something like that. No,
isn't it like Mexico City is quite dangerous for women?
So Mexico is number 6 on the list. Wow. So with 5.3 murders of women per 100,000 in the country. The highest is El Salvador. Then you've got Jamaica, and then you've got Honduras. And it was things like they were talking to this lady and basically she was like beaten up by a partner and like nearly killed, and then she went to the police and they said, look, the only way we're going to help you is if you give us money and your sister to have sex with. I was like, what? Like
Russia beaten up.
And Russia comes in just behind Mexico at number 7.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's the idea that can happen to people still in this day and age, that like the police will be like, oh, if you have sex with us, we'll help you with your like assault case. So essentially like, oh, I've been raped. Okay, well, let us rape you and then maybe we'll help you. It was pretty shocking, actually. And I kind of thought maybe it was something good to bring light to, that maybe we could consider this. And once we are done with this whole quarantine situation, maybe we can consider that, some people would have been pretty badly affected by this, and so there's any charities that we can give to. It could be like ones that would help women who are in need at this time. That's my thoughts, really.
Jess, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just a general statistic, like worldwide, that the most likely person to murder a woman is their partner. That's just like a known thing, statistically. And it's really good, Lawrence, you've like brought light to that. But it's also like, obviously there's, in those countries, obviously outside the UK, it's like there's that kind of extreme kind of level of that. But then also in the UK, thinking about the people who are quarantined with abusive partners, and there are actually like special helplines that are kind of set up if you think anyone's kind of at risk of that. But and I think it also brings light to the fact that I think when we speak about like, feminism and kind of fighting for women's corner in this country, we think about, kind of like white women in the UK and think actually we've got it quite good. But, there's still kind of quite a big global fight to be done, which is, I think, what actually a lot of women are still campaigning for, even though it may not be as widely publicised. Like you said, you were quite surprised by that. Like, why do you think you were surprised?
I think that because my experience is in the countries I've been to, so like England, Eastern Europe, currently Brazil, where you get the odd situation where you feel like there's danger for certain people, or there's like racism that comes out and you think shit. But I wouldn't have thought that in El Salvador you've got just below 14 murders per 100,000 women, which is actually quite ridiculous. That's actually kind of terrifying. So I just didn't think in this day and age that still quite happened, even in some sort of poorer countries.
Yeah, I also just want to highlight as well that murder is obviously the most extreme form of violence, right? And know that statistic. There's obviously there's a scale of violence towards women. So if that's kind of the peak statistic and probably the most rare form of violence, then think about how bad it is kind of further down the line as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a very, very valid point that's been raised, because violence against women does not get talked about enough, especially in developing countries, in particularly in South America, even Africa. Obviously, female genital mutilation was such a massive problem all over the world, particularly in parts of Asia and Africa. So it's certainly a very valid point, and our thoughts are obviously with those affected, because this is not a particularly pleasant time to be locked at home if your one chance of escape is to get out, for your partner to go to work, to go and live his life. And that's certainly a very, very valid point. So, thank you for bringing that up.
No worries. Actually, I've got something else I want to discuss, just to really cheapen what I just discussed as well, in classic Lawrence Ray fashion. And I just wanted to bring up another news piece. It will only be quick. It's something that has bugged me for a little while now. Now, do you remember when Ariana Grande decided to go ahead and lick a bakery item or something in a restaurant? Do you remember this? Does anyone remember this at all, or was it just me? She was like got caught on camera.
Some kind of like Danish pastry thing.
yeah, she licked a Danish and then put it back or something. It was just pretty weird. So a guy on Wednesday in Texas got sentenced to 30 days in jail and got fined $1,000 and got an additional 6-month jail term, probated for 2 years. Right, so pretty hefty. So what he did is he posted a video of himself to social media, removing an ice cream container from a supermarket freezer, licking it, and then putting it back again. Oh. Why? Why is this a thing? I can't really understand, because it's not funny, it's not hot, it's not like sexually motivated. Why are we licking food and putting it back? I'm completely puzzled at this point.
It's like, as well, I get it. You're just aiming to cause discomfort for someone else, but you don't even see the result of what you've done. Yeah. So what is the point? What is going through people's minds?
I just, it baffles me. As in, I couldn't really understand, like, if I was going to screw with someone, I'd want to see their reaction and find it funny. Yeah. I can't understand it. It confused me. So I don't know if any of you guys are into licking food. If you could give me like an insight as to why. Nibs, are you into licking food?
No, definitely not. Not unless I'm going to eat it.
I can imagine you putting a steak on the barbie and just taking a good lick before you put it on there.
I mean, if someone asks you for a sip of your drink, you make sure you tongue the bottle so that they're put off. But you wouldn't do it to someone's drink if you're offering them one. That's ridiculous.
This does make me think of an important question, though. People often look at me like I'm a psycho because I tend to sort of eat my ice cream, like actually sort of bite into the ice cream, whereas like,
whoa,
yes,
yeah, what?
Why do I get this reaction?
Crap.
Hold up. What? Are you a sociopath?
Do you know how long does it take if you're genuinely licking your ice cream? What, are you there for like half an hour?
I'm with
What are you doing?
I do this as well. Not when it's super frozen, because then you get brain freeze and it hurts your teeth. But like, I think it's like, it's less messy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait. What, are we talking about full on gnashing in with your teeth here? Or
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with you guys? If you have to do it, you bite with you just kind of take your teeth away and you just do like a little bit of like a lip bite suck thing.
Oh no, I hate that. It goes everywhere.
Yeah, you can do that, but you're not biting with your teeth. Absolutely right. Both of you are on my radar now. If anything weird happens, you're the kind that'll be licking the ice cream in the supermarket. Both of you, that kind of behaviour.
No, I'd open this up and give it a good old gnash.
No, that sounds no. Both of you guys are on my radar.
All right, guys. On that note, I think we'll go to a break. If anyone has any remarks that they want to send in to us, they can always send in at podcast@tw3media.co.uk. That's podcast@tw3media.co.uk. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So, we're going to play a game called
Have I Got Fake News for You?
And this is a game where essentially I'll read out 3 stories from the week. The aim of the game is to pick the one story that is actually fake news or is not correct. We're going to have a look at 3 climate-related stories. So, without further ado, the first story is that a study has found that 5% of tweets about climate change are from bots. Okay, this was a study done by Brown University in America. It was quite a comprehensive study that looked at presidential election and looked around the time when Donald Trump moved out of the Paris Accord. The next story is looking at how many countries around the world, actually 50%, do not have access to basic, safely managed sanitation, and over 3/4 of the developing world do not have access to somewhere to wash with soap and water. So obviously this is quite prevalent in the current climate with coronavirus and the spread of disease, which is obviously accelerating worldwide. And the last one is a Russian icebreaker went on a voyage to resupply a climate change research expedition about 100 miles from the North Pole, and it was actually struggling through heavy ice for weeks. Now, with ice melting globally and poles shifting, this is actually a good thing. The problem was that the ship burned so much fuel that it actually had to be resupplied itself. So we ended up in a sort of good and bad for the environment type thing. Okay, so they're the 3 news stories this week.
I've got questions. Yeah,
you always have a question, Lawrence.
I've got questions, Dom. So the first one about the 5%, right? You said a bot. They're made by bots. These comments. What do the bots look like? That's what I want to know.
Well, the bots look like lines of code, Lawrence.
Is it like the Terminator or?
No, these
it's
are
not R2D2 set up PC, is it, Lawrence?
Yeah, I'd say. Have we got
P3PO?
Well, I mean, obviously, eventually all code goes down to binary machine, what's known as machine code. But no, it's essentially, it will just be scripts that run. It'll be macros that run and put out tweets about a particular topic, whatever the bot fancies. Now, obviously, this ranges from disparaging things about another candidate, as we saw in the presidential election, with Russia's interference, or it can be about a particular topic. In this instance, it was climate change.
So it's only 5% of internet traffic, right?
No, 5% of tweets about climate change. Now, I can't speak for the specifics of the study, but I would assume they aggregated certain hashtags and essentially came up with that figure. Jess, what's your question?
Yeah, so I was going to say, so when you say about climate change, was it like in a positive and negative way with a particular agenda, or just in the topic in general?
Negative. So these were tweets about a specific subject, but they kind of misinterpret or make up the facts. They were basically proven to be factually incorrect.
Okay, is someone feeding the bots this information and then making it retweet it, or is the bot actually creating the fake news? Because how would it work out what's fake and what's not?
So when you first said is someone feeding the bots, I was thinking they're ordering Dominoes every periodically.
How do they stay fed? Tom?
I mean, essentially, yes, this information will be fed to the bots as to what to tweet about. And then there are all sorts of machine learning algorithms out there that can basically make the bots do nefarious things. Any questions on the other stories? We've focused very much on a single story here.
That's because I'm trying to sort of put you on rest, Dom. Trying to sort of wheedle out any potential. The third one sounds like you're reading it from a script, and it sounds too ridiculous to be false. So I reckon it's one or two. It's one or two. It doesn't sound ridiculous. It sounds so realistic. The third one.
What was story 2 again? Oh, without clean water. All right. Okay.
Yeah, story 2.
Well,
statistics about water infrastructure, and of course, water infrastructure is a worldwide problem. And of course, as what I've been saying to everybody all week, as people have been mass buying toilet roll from supermarkets, is just reminding them that at least 50% of the world does not have access to clean sanitation. So, and there's also certain parts of the world where toilet roll is not even used. It's actually soap and water that's used to wash yourself. So
I'm saying number one is bullshit, because I reckon it's more than 5%. I reckon it was like a lot more than 5%. I mean, I see a lot of bots on Twitter as well.
Who's next? Anyone else with any suggestions?
I don't have a Twitter account, so I can't really take a guess at this one.
Yeah, number 2.
Just for the fun of it, I'll just go number 2. Yeah.
G.
Everyone else's guesses?
Well, yeah, I'm sort of thinking along the same lines of Lawrence. Aren't there sort of like armies and armies of people in Russia that are just constantly sort of probing people to have some sort of negative reaction to all sorts of stories? Yeah, so I'll go for A as well. Yeah, I think there's more actually than 5%.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking along similar lines. I think climate change is such a contentious issue. I think there'd be definitely more than 5% of the content is going to be agendaed.
So you are totally right. Well done. You've all hit the nail on the head there. So this was a study done by Brown University, and it looked at 6.5 million tweets from the period surrounding President Donald Trump's 2017 announcement that he was removing the United States from the Paris Climate Accord, essentially a worldwide agreement to reduce carbon emissions. Now, the finding actually showed that 25% of tweets on climate change were likely posted by bots spreading misinformation.
Jeez.
So tweets about fake science were found to have been written by bots 38% of the time, and 28% of tweets about oil company Exxon were posted by bots. Yeah, it's quite astounding the amount of misinformation that is posted by social media as a whole.
Yeah, and when you think about the proportion of people that solely get their news from Facebook nowadays or whatever, that is a bit worrying, isn't it?
Certainly is, yeah. I do think social media companies, with their algorithms and their AI machine learning projects that they do to tackle fake news, I do think they're doing a pretty good job, given I think the situation could actually be a lot worse. But of course, as we approach presidential elections across the pond, and of course there's elections globally, this is a pressing issue that must be tackled continually, and perhaps even legislated against in the future, but we'll see. So watch this space. And that was Have I Got Fake News For You this week.
Have I got fake news for you?
Ooh, we won, sucker.
All right, so look, I know I've just done a lot of talking, but you'll have to forgive me. I do have one story which I'm going to squeeze in. It's a rather uplifting story, I think. Basically, a man had a trip of a lifetime. I don't know if any of you have ever been to Iceland, but it's always been one of my dreams, as it were, and to go there. And with the worldwide shutdown in air travel, they had their trip to Iceland cancelled. So the gentleman took his wife-to-be to a store in Tonbridge called Iceland, got down on one knee and proposed. And she said yes, but she was, quote, laughing hysterically. So that's a nice little sweet story from the week.
What a beautiful story.
I saw this story too, and there's two other bits that really made me love it. So the first bit is that they were both 58, so they're getting married quite late on in life, which was just like wonderful to hear. That love still blossoms even when you're nearly 60. And they also both work in for the NHS. I think one works for a hospice and one works as an anaesthetist, which is really obviously, considering what's going on at the moment, it's lovely.
And also super cheap catering. There's bargains at Iceland.
Of course there is that. Maybe. I mean,
they're throwing Kerry Katona as well for the event. That could be a good PR thing, actually. If Iceland was like, "Oh, you know what, guys? Thanks for this. We'll chuck in Kerry Katona to do your wedding as the priest or whatever." Just imagine, it'd be amazing.
So every week, we like to try and finish on something positive. So Nibs prepared a little finale for us all. So I'll take it away, Nibsy.
All right, guys. So in light of what's been happening in the world this past week, I've had to dig a little bit deeper to find some good news. So beginning with, as we bring to you the show that highlights the world's insanities, we poke fun at those who deserve it, tackle the fake news that plagues us. We also look to inspire and uplift all our friends and listeners in this troublesome and unprecedented time. With no further ado, and with no introductions necessary, myself and the team would like to present to you the good, the kind and the monumental, a short segment that focuses on the good news. Beginning in my home country of Australia, a savvy investor by the name of Sheila Woodcock has brought a much-needed hope to many after leaving her $14 million accumulated wealth to 15 different charities. After experiencing one of the worst bushfire seasons in recorded history, a heavy downpour of much-needed rain extinguished a third of the bushfires in a single day. However, countless people from many communities have lost everything, including the basic human needs. But thanks to a philanthropist couple and their generous contributions, Mike and Annie Cannonbrooks have created the Resilient Energy Collective, a company with the help of Tesla and 5W in setting up in microgrids around the country to help provide power to the regions affected. And now across the world, in the home of my fellow host, renowned for their royal family and love of football, comes a story of great discovery by a student at the University of Sussex. Lucy Hughes, aged 24, discovered through her research a bioplastic material, which is created from organic fish waste that would normally end up in the trash. Her discovery of this biodegradable and compostable material known as Marinatex has proved to be the best product presented at the James Dyson Charitable Trust. Out of many entries, over 1,000 entries from 28 different countries, a product such as this could potentially replace a significant percentage of plastic. The figures actually showed 40% of plastic produced is for 1 day shelf life item, which is just amazing. She could replace that with this product, which is completely biodegradable.
That's amazing. I'm definitely for that one.
Yeah,
I'm very anti-plastic. I've been for the last few years in any way I can. So I've got like a metal bottle I use for everything. I've got a bamboo toothbrush where you can, right, and it's affordable. I believe in like being as like reusables as possible, right? So that's amazing. Yeah, I love that. Really cool.
Does everybody on here have one of those reusable coffee mugs that you take to the cafe, and if you actually order a cafe, you get it for a little bit cheaper, but you use your own cup? And it's this whole push for environmentally friendly solutions. You know, we see McDonald's are trying to find a solution to their waste. Starbucks. I've got a story here which I'm gonna briefly touch on to do with the supermarkets. So you mentioned Iceland in that recent proposal. Tesco, who have recently partnered with Volkswagen and Podpoint, are looking to install 2,400 charging points across 100 Tesco stores in England. This groundbreaking rollout will assist shoppers with free charging while they shop. They obviously conducted a study which confirmed that people usually spend about 50 minutes in the shopping centre per week. And they calculated that if people were charging their cars in this time free of cost over a year, it would create over 1,000 mileage of free energy to those consumers. So it's their way of giving something back.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very, very much for that, Nipsey. So,
much
very welcome.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Well, it's nice to end on a positive note.
One last thing to say, Dom, if that's okay. Okay, I've got because obviously every week I like to provide you guys with a Donald Trump quote before we finish. So I just wanted to provide you with this week's Donald Trump quote. We have a $5 billion website. I have so many websites. I have them all over the place. I hire people. It costs me $3. There you go. That's the Trump quote for this week.
And I hope that you will feel inspired. The American economy right now.
It costs him $3 to hire people, I guess. So there you go. Enjoy the inspiration for this week, everybody. And next week we'll have more.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much, guys. That was the week it was. Whether you're in quarantine, lockdown, we hope you made your time a little bit more fun. So we'll leave it at that. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.
Love you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining,
guys.
Bye.
But Greg, I hear you cry. How can I send you guys all my thoughts and comments I have from the stories you've read this week? Have no fear, lovely listener. You can send an email to podcast@tw3media.co.uk. That's podcast@tw3media.co.uk. Bye for now.